Well, good evening and welcome to the Will Rogers Memorial Coliseum here in Fort Worth, Texas for our first international class of the week, the $40,000 BetHorseSports.com Meter 45. It's a two-phase special format class here for our opening for the international tour. Got about 40 riders here, including some of the very, very best. We'll see them on the start list. And fresh off the back of his Geneva victory, McLean Ward is with us. And McLean, of course, very much on that hunt for a place in the World Cup finals. It was a happy hunting ground for him back in the 2017 season when McLean took victory in Omaha, and Omaha, Nebraska playing host to the World Cup finals again this coming spring. And McLean Ward, amongst all of these riders on the North American League team, would love to pick up his place in Omaha. They were fantastic finals then, and we're looking forward to having them. And of course, the next time North America holds the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup Finals will be here in Fort Worth in Texas in the spring of 2026. We'll be here at the Will Rogers Center, but over in the prestigious and state-of-the-art Dickies Arena. But here we have the heritage. We're in one of these beautiful 1930s coliseums that are so often the scene of horse shows here in North America, and one with an incredible history, of course, in Western sport. And Fort Worth, so much part probably of the Old West, now describes itself as being the modern West. And it's great to be able to bring the Olympic discipline of show jumping to a town that really understands horses like Fort Worth. We had a fantastic World Cup qualifier here last year, 12 months ago, with victory going to Connor Swale, one of his eventual 3 victories on the North American League of Longines FEI Jumping World Cup action. Connor not with us this year, so we're going to see a new victor, and a new victor who might go forward to represent the North American League at those finals in Omaha, Nebraska next spring. So 39 horse and rider combinations going to take on Anderson Lima's track. As I say, it's a two-phase special, so we'll see plenty of jumping tonight. Even if they have faults and time faults in the first phase, they do get to progress on to take on that second phase. So they'll jump right the way around, get real experience under their belts for the competitions to come. So it's a jump-off format welcome class sponsored by Lugano Diamonds here tomorrow night, and then a rest day for the FEI horses before they then jump the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier presented by Lugano Diamonds on Saturday. Great international field, riders from all around the world, Brazil, Mexico on the early part of our start list. Eilish Cunniff there, Vivaldi de Thiel. Eilish has been having a good World Cup season. Misty Cassar flying the flag for the United States as well. World Games rider Erin Ballard from Canada. Lily Keenan, Lily fresh off victory in the World Cup circuit in Las Vegas just recently. Returning rider to us, Rowan Willis, Wellington Grey Goose. He was with us last year. The 3-time World Cup champion, Rodrigo Pessoa, lines out tonight. Vanessa Mannix, so often a Nations Cup rider for Canada. Mark Watring, Mark who's a double Olympian, former Pan American Games individual gold medalist. Mark who's represented Puerto Rico, and it's an eventing and a show jumping Olympian, and he is on the path to Paris. That is his big target. Daniel Coyle, winner this season in Toronto. He rides Legacy towards the end of the draw. Rowan with 2 in the class. He's got Blue Movie, Carrots as known, coming towards the end. We've got Aaron Vale, a tremendous supporter of classes on the Split Rock Jumping Tour, coast to coast. We've got Kent Farrington there with Landon Kent, who's been, what hasn't he done in the sport? He's had a very good season, picked up some good results. We've got Christian Heineking. This is his most local show, the German rider who's been here in Texas for a long time. NKH Mr. Darcy will be his ride, and then Caitlin Campbell and Pelina de Lescaut will wrap up affairs for us as our 39th to start. There's a couple of other athletes with us at the show who aren't showing tonight, but we'll definitely see them in the welcome. Level 3 designer based out of Mexico, Anderson Lima sets the track. Here is the first phase, so 7 obstacles, 8 jumping efforts, 42 seconds allowed in the first phase. And our first phase does finish over that double of cowboy boots coming down towards the in-gate. So that gives us our 7th and 8th obstacle. 7AB is where the changeover happens into the second phase. And the second phase then from fences 8 through to 13 with a 45-second time allowed. So 42 over 45 are the times allowed in our $40,000 BetHorseSports.com Meter 45 two-phase. BetHorseSports.com, the new innovation, the fantasy play-along app You can put real skin in the game and play along with BetHorseSports.com. They offer odds. You load currency into the system. You get points that you can allocate to a class, and those points you allocate against odds based on a rider, whether they are likely to jump clear, whether they're likely to finish on the podium. And of course the odds different, similar to playing black and red or playing an actual color in the roulette in the casino. And BetHorseSports.com, all those odds are generated by the Jumper app, JUMPR, who are other partners with us here at Split Rock. But thanks so much to BetHorseSports.com, the fantasy jumping app, for their sponsorship of tonight's opening FEI class. Well, to set the scene now here in the Fort Worth Stadium, the national anthem. So everything in place for a good evening of international jumping ahead of us to start the international tour here in Fort Worth, Texas. A tour that will conclude with the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier presented by Lugano Diamonds on Saturday night, a $250,000 class here in the Will Rogers Memorial Coliseum. Standing by for the very first horse. As I say, two-phase special, so we will see quite a lot of jumping tonight. Even if they do pick up faults in that first phase. They will progress and be able to jump right the way around. And here is our first to go of the night and of the week here in Fort Worth, Luis Francisco de Azevedo. Luis rides Nashville here. This is a 9-year-old by Diamante Semii for the Brazilian contender. Luis has been to the World Cup finals before. He's ridden to the World Championships level. And with this horse, Nashville was top 10 in the World Cup qualifier this year at the National Horse Show in Lexington, Kentucky. Rider ranked just outside the world's top 200 at the moment, but picking up a lot of good points. He appears in the big classes. He's had good results, for instance, in the Winter Equestrian Festival Finale Grand Prix. He's been to the major Nations Cup shows in Europe at the likes of Rotterdam and Samorin. This year travelled over to Europe to ride on the Brazilian team at the Le Ball Nations Cup in France. This course starts out over the Lugano, then a little bit of a dogleg down the rink to the equestrian closet vertical at number 2. And then this first related distance. It's 4 strides up to the green and white, and then a little bit of a right-hand bending line to the Jarvis Insurance. Maximum height, meter 40 there at the top end of the rink. There should be a first phase clear here. He just has to deal with the Western boots. Good, 35.02 on the clock. in that first phase, so comfortably inside the time. Are we about to have our account opened with a double clear? It is something of a schooling track, and it's very, very horse dependent how that schooling breaks down for you. The Western Motif double just going there, the A element. Make that swing around back to number 11 and preparing for the final line. But so I was just saying that sort of schooling aspect, some horses need to be dead, they need to be pushed and challenged. Other horses will just come in and have a little bit of a sweetening, very, very steady. They won't worry too much about the clock, just look to get familiar with the ring, get jumping nicely. So it was just that single rail. Be interesting to watch that final line. The line there, it's been tweaked a little bit. It's been probably increased in intensity and just made a little bit more that the riders have to ride in with a very, very positive plan between the last two, both black fences as well. But we've seen that particular line in action most of the day here, actually, at the Will Rogers Coliseum. And it has been problematic. And one of the things when we get our next look at the Vitalize, it's one of the Dalman show jumps that goes show to show with the Split Rock Jumping Tour. And the Vitalize has this pointing V-shaped bottom filler. And again, that really does draw the horse's eye down. It's an unusual shape for them to encounter their low down in a jump. Another rider here, double-handed, is going to be Arturo Parada Vallejo. Arturo, who was actually a winner on the national tour earlier on today. This is Arturo's first World Cup of the season. Was second in the Nations Cup Grand Prix of Jalapa at home in Mexico this spring. Just hear him lay a toe on that green and white going up that first distance from the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup fence. Clear out of the first phase, and Arturo's just looking a little bit like he's keen on the time. He puts himself a little bit left of center through the Cowboy Boots double, looks to shorten the turn up to the October Hill Farm. Comes around now. This is the double that caught out his predecessor Luis Francisco. Stays good for Arturo Parada Vallejo. Well, this will be one they could get behind early on. Let's see how they deal with this final line. This horse just not making the most comfortable of shapes for Arturo over some of the oxes. He looks behind him, everything stays standing. 33-35, that's the one to beat at the moment. So it is Mexico in the driving seat with a rider who's already been a winner here over the course of the first day of action at the Fort Worth International. That's Arturo Parada Vallejo and Bacot. And Arturo, as I say, will be back later on. He's got another ride, Kidamo, later on in the draw here in our BetHorseSports.com meter 45 two-phase. Santiago Lambre, Olympian. He has been a double Split Rock Jumping Tour Grand Prix. He won his first Grand Prix with us on the Split Rock Jumping Tour, under the nation for whom he rode to Olympic level, Mexico, and latterly then won, having returned to the colors of the country of his birth, Brazil. Santiago was top 5 in the National Horse Show in Lexington, Kentucky in the World Cup qualifier there. Pick up valuable World Cup points over the course of this winter. Just this end of the ring as well, there's a lot of effort in the presentation of this ring gone in to really set it up. And this end with the digital podium and the digital sponsor boards. Just making that turn away from the in-gate, particularly up to number 3, quite short, quite looky for less experienced horses. It's one of the reasons why after last year a lot of riders have sort of highlighted this show on their winter campaign as well, to try and prepare for something like Omaha, to try and prepare younger horses to go on to shows like this and even bigger in the future. This is nimble. Santiago Lambre, Comtesse 202 by Comme Il Faut, zipping around the top of the ring, taking a very economic line around to the Split Rock again. That Split Rock comes as a little bit of a surprise, as it did earlier on to Arturo's horse. The front rail does go from the Split Rock on that basis. So he is faster, 31.83, but it's 4 faults in the second phase. So 4 overall for Santiago Lambre and Comtesse 202. Caitlin Campbell is our next up. Caitlin out of Temecula, California. Has had a great World Cup season so far. Picked up points at Vegas and at Sacramento over here on what used to be the West Coast Sub-League. Jumped the World Cup with us here last year. Unfortunately, straight away just licks the front rail off the Lugano Diamonds Oxer at number 1. So just carrying that penalty right the way around. So whatever the original plan might have been, and it doesn't mean she wouldn't be competitive time-wise, because she could still feel that she wants to let this horse experience moving up and down through the gears on this opening night. So coming out of the first phase already on 8 faults. The first and the last, the B element at number 7, down for Caitlin and Armentos by Armitage. And again, you'll see just the subtle adjustments that Caitlin is making to her riding, making to her program, making to her plan, to now say, all right, well, we're not going to be trying for speed, we're just going to try and set up this jump. We want to go out here on a good jumping experience. And it's another horse that just hangs a little bit of that split rock. It's obviously just in a tricky little spot in the ring, the way they're approaching it, the horses are getting to it. It's quite solid. The split rock filler at the bottom, in comparison, we spoke about the V-shaped filler and the Vitalize. The split rock filler has always been that very, very solid base, and actually the designers very cleverly use whether they do put it right on the ground, which boldens it up a little bit more, almost like a wall, or as he has done here, he's just given a sliver of air underneath that filler, so the horses are looking down at the filler and looking even further down at that little sliver that they can see through. All these little subtleties of design coming to play, and it is Caitlin Campbell going out with us on Armentos there, having had those couple down on course. So we turn our attention over then to Daniel Coyle, first of 2 for Daniel. Daniel, who has been a winner on the North American League this year. Ivory, who was second in Las Vegas. As I say, Daniel was the winner in Toronto with his other horse, Legacy. Ivory, the 9-year-old by Falaise de Muse. Daniel co-owns with Errol Grange. Daniel has been prolific on the World Cup circuit here in North America. He's won World Cup qualifiers previously at Thunderbird in British Columbia, at Deer Ridge in Florida, and at Live Oak in Ocala, Florida in recent seasons as well. And that Toronto victory, a real sweet one, just recently at what will be this season's only Canadian leg for his long time and very loyal Canadian owners, Errol Grange and Lothlorien. Daniel currently third on the North American League. It's not quite as simple as the Western European League, where the best 18 athletes go forward to the World Cup finals. Here in North America, there's a set number of places for US athletes, Canadian athletes, and Mexican athletes to have places, and then riders like Daniel, who are outside the league, Ireland clearly not in North America, he needs to finish better than the lowest ranked, I think it's US rider, who's qualified for the finals, to have his place. So as long as he's sitting up there, you know, third, second, maybe first, by the time the league comes to its conclusion, his place in Omaha is very, very much on the market, and his place here on the winner's circle could be on as well. 30.77, Daniel Coyle and Ivory TCS give a very, very good account of themselves and go into the lead here in our BetHorseSports.com meter 45 two-phase. So very nearly 3 full seconds faster there for Daniel Coyle. go back to an Olympian now in the shape of Nick Pizarro. Nick, who rode at the London Games. Represented Mexico this year at the Longines FEI Jumping Nations Cup Finals, that team jumping championship in Barcelona in September. And Nick here with Pia Contra by Contagos. And Nick and Pia Contra were actually top 5 here in Fort Worth in our Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier 12 months ago. So quite a lot to do. Daniel Coyle, as ever, so quick around the track. The early draw, not letting that count against him. He's got another chance as well, just after the halfway. But 30.77, as I say, very nearly 3 full seconds faster than Arturo Parada Vallejo, who didn't look to be hanging around himself. We say, still, you won't expect every rider to come in and try for that, because for some horses in particular, but a lot of riders maybe just like to really try and peak at the right moment. They try and treat the whole week as a campaign, and you know, instead of just trying to win every class or go all out in every class, it's about just trying to set the horse up 120% to deliver on that one night, which is World Cup qualifier night. It's a little bit, I always say, like the thoroughbred trainers placing the horse. It just looks like Nick is going to call it a day here. He's jumped around a little bit of the course. He's just got the horse's eye in. So Nick Pizarro electing to retire. On your screen there, though, is not Nick, it's Eilish Cunniff. Eilish with Greylish LLC's Vivaldi de Thiel. Eilish out of South Salem, New York, was 3rd here last year in Fort Worth in our World Cup qualifier with this horse, Vivaldi. Nations Cup rider for the US this year at the Longines Majors at Jalapa in Mexico and Thunderbird in Canada. Top 10 finisher already this year in World Cup at the National Horse Show. So picked up some useful points on the road to Omaha so far. Replicate or improve on her form last year, there's a hatful of points to be had here this weekend in Fort Worth. Caprice Bois-Margaux, the sire of Vivaldi de Thiel for Eilish. It's a very tough early turn on the course, and you know, it's a little bit of a litmus test. You know, for sure the classification is based on time in the second phase, so there's not necessarily a huge incentive to be going very fast and trying to make tight turns in the first phase, but the option is there. And again, if that's the sort of turn that your horse maybe has problems with, or your horse will go through the rest of the week having enjoyed being dared or challenged around a turn like that, then it's there for you. I think Anderson's been really clever, Anderson Lima, our designer, clever in the options he's given riders to just really try out all the gears, try out all the paces here tonight. And Eilish, having gotten into the second phase on the clean sheet, is just trying a little bit again. You know, 30.77 for Daniel Coyle. You can see she's only got 1.5 seconds remaining. She's got to get all the way down this related distance to the Vitalize. She is in arrears. It's 34.52, but that is going to be good enough for 3rd place, because we've just got so far 3 double clears, 3 clears in both phases of jumping here in the bedhorsesports.com meter 45. So Eilish Cunniff and Vivaldi de Thiel, podium finishes in the World Cup here last year, have set themselves up for a good week ahead. Nice start. So JJ Atkinson's our next to go. Haval H. JJ, who hails from Lyons, Colorado, has jumped with us at the Colorado show on the Split Rock Jumping Tour last season. JJ, who has previously campaigned to 5-star meter 60 level at the likes of Spruce Meadows. Jumped a couple of World Cup shows already this season. you see a horse who's not actually hugely set up in her relationship with this horse, just the last few weeks getting it all together. You see this horse is just less settled in his outline and in his way of going as they build that relationship. He's come in, and again, the level of experience of coming into an arena that looks like this with the lights, the VIP, the dressing. Haval by the VDL sire, Zaval, the dam size of Rocco Blue, beautifully bred and just 10 years old. And again, sometimes the age doesn't necessarily give away the experience, especially when you look back. Let's not forget that some riders, some barns lost the guts of a year, particularly in Europe. It was less so here in North America, where a lot of showing was able to carry on because we were able to kind of bubble in some of those areas that present tours and really do good biosecurity control. But it will be a few years before we're ever able to say that a 12-year-old horse is a 12-year-old horse with a 12-year-old horse's worth of experience. And because our equine athletes are partners in sport, they are animals. They have the animus, they have their own individual personalities, and some will grow up at different rates to others. So JJ Atkinson and Haval, 8 in 42.10, so 7th best at the moment. Well, a visitor who has come east to the show from Canyon Country, California, Misty Cassar. Misty owns and rides this one. It is Milord Cornet. And a rider who's seen concentrating on the World Cup, jumped Sacramento and Vegas already this year. And Misty picked up a podium finish in Sacramento 12 months ago, which pushed her to her first appearance in the US team coat at the World Cup finals in Leipzig in Germany this spring. That wasn't Misty's first visit to Europe. She actually did a summer season with us in Europe as well back in 2019. You just see how tight that turn is there. Misty's horse just having to break to the trot a little bit to set up to come around to the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup purple, blue and navy fence. Again, you just get the sense that Milord Cornet is coming in here really exuberant, on his toes, happy with life, but that's just not giving Misty the easiest time controlling and setting up the way she needs to for the technicalities of this course. And one of the very few finding it necessary to go out around the October Hill farm fence. So 40.91 is the second phase time. That's single rail down for Four Faults, the Dalman Jump Company, down at the top of the ring for Misty and Milord Cornet. So one for Canada now, hailing from Tottenham, Ontario, Erin Ballard, World Championship rider for Canada this summer at Herning in Denmark, having previously ridden at the World Championships and Pan American Games. It's actually Erin's first World Cup show of the season. She's been concentrating a little bit on the Major League Series here. Here in North America, and jumping the last couple of weeks out in California. So Erin bringing forward 0 from the first phase at the moment. Again, you just see sort of the inch perfection from riders of Aaron's experience in Caliban. Just that little bit right of center at the Dalman is just saving those fractions of a second on her way back to the western motif. Gets a good spot there over the white vertical. And again, you know, another horse that just gets up in the air, paddles a little bit. They know the height they're trying to achieve over that split rock fence, but there's just something about it up in that corner they're not quite reading. Aaron and Gakir, though, they really do have a very good turn of pace, because you could see Daniel trying. Aaron just really smooth, really economic, really accurate, and delivering very nearly the same time. So into a close second place, but closer maybe than Daniel Coyle and Ivory will allow themselves. They'll allow themselves on day one. They might not allow it on day three when it's Longines FEI Jumping World Cup time. So Ireland still leads as we go to Lily Keenan. Lily out of New York. New York has 20 points on the standings, all from a win on the World Cup circuit last time out in Las Vegas. Gakir is Argan de Belliard is the ride here for Lily by my Lord Carthago. Lily with a great spring at the moment. We have Agana, who was a World Cup winner just recently, Queensland E. Had some fantastic five-star results in Europe this year, was her Nations Cup horse at Dublin. And this horse, Argan de Belliard, was Lily's horse for the World Championships this year at Herning in Denmark. So a rider very much entitled to her US team jacket. Lily actually set herself up for the year ahead by using the opportunity presented at Wellington in Florida, the Winter Equestrian Festival venue, or Wellington International as it now is, to ride some international dressage. Of course, with those two competition venues pretty much co-located down there, that is an opportunity. I know a lot of the US eventers go down there to get mileage in both national dressage and national jumpers over the course of the 12-week Winter Equestrian Festival tour. Lily's another one. Actually took Aaron Vale a little bit by surprise, having gone out around the October Hill farm fence. He was just there, having preloaded, but no great shakes. And of course, Lily, again here, just in the business of coming in and jumping clear. She's not going to push Argan, and that was clear by the way she did go around the October Hill. So no harm, no foul, as Lily gives us our latest clear round, but it's a steady enough time for the US team rider. Aaron Vale, most recently with us on the Split Rock Jumping Tour at Aiken. He's been a tremendous supporter of the Split Rock Jumping Tour over recent seasons. Second in one of our International Grand Prix at the Kentucky Horse Park just recently. Rode through the World Cup Tour at the National Horse Show in Lexington, Kentucky. He was third in his speed class on the International Tour there just at the end of October. In his career, he's twice been the winner of the World Cup qualifier at Washington. Jumped there this year as well, so he's kind of got the World Cup on his radar. If the points come, especially with it being in Omaha, it's not a big chunk out of their competition program. But Aaron and his family, you know, out competing every weekend. We've had, just thinking back to that Kentucky show, Aaron's wife Mallory riding a lot in our amateur national classes, and even his daughter was jumping some of the real low jumpers, the 65.65s. I think in the second ring, won one of our fist pump challenges one week at the Kentucky events on the Split Rock Jumping Tour. So again, there's that whole aspect of it as well. Aaron with quite a few clients. So, you know, if the World Cup Finals was again in Europe, some of the US riders would say, well, you know, is it something I want to chase? It's a big chunk to go there, whereas when it's in Omaha, I mean, still from his base in Florida and on the East Coast, it's going to be a flight, but it's not necessarily going to take that much time away from their core business as well. And that's a real balancing act for these riders, and a lot of them, you know, supported by wonderful owners. We were mentioning Daniel Coyle's owners earlier on, and how important they are to that whole balancing act as well. Of, you know, they give riders maybe the freedom to chase some of those ultimate personal goals by taking the pressure off the need to constantly be running quite a large business. So Aaron there is going to be our first to pick up a couple of time penalties. The time penalties come in at the rate of 1 for each second over any of the times allowed. So he ends up on a total of 7 faults here, having had that quite early rail. So again, you see how a rider, and he's a very competitive rider, Aaron Vale, how his tactic, his program will have changed on a dime here as he rode around this ring. So nice to have this man back with us, Rowan Willis, who jumped World Cup here last year at Fort Worth. This is the first of 2 for Rowan. This is Wellington Grey Goose. This one bred in Great Britain. Rowan, who's now based in Ocala, Florida. He based himself there at the beginning of the 2018 season in preparation for the World Championships that year. And he has really made North America home, and he has done it with great success as well, including a win with us in Columbus, Ohio on the Split Rock Jumping Tour Grand Prix circuit. Rowan, though, and Wellington Grey Goose, well, they have the beginning and the end of that line down. Actually, it's not necessarily unusual the way what we call these related distances are set up. You know, when he didn't quite get the turn he wanted past the digital podium and clips the World Cup jump, then if he can't get Grey Goose back and listening and make the alteration, make the change, the chances of the Jarvis going at the end of that same line massively increase. Also pulls the rail out of 7B, so he's already on 12 faults, so he'll hack around. Again, you know, there's no guarantee that he's really going to hack and go steady around the second phase, because he might still want to just tune this horse up and get this horse, you know, it's kind of his blood up, his adrenaline going, thinking about how much it's fun and enjoyable to go fast against the clock. But they know each other very well. Rowan's been riding this horse since, pretty much, I think, since it was bred by the Duke of Wellington's family. Hence the Wellington prefix. Who Rowan was riding for before he came over here to North America. Still keeps up some of those British owners, and still very supportive of the international competition circuit at Wellington Riding on the Hampshire estate. One of the wonderful things, even from year one here 12 months ago, Fort Worth and the Will Rogers Memorial Coliseum has welcomed real legends of the sport, and this is one certainly in World Cup action who it's hard to look beyond when you look down through the record books. 3 times the winner of the World Cup finals. He's also been, not to denigrate these honours, the Olympic champion and the world champion of our sport, Rodrigo Pessoa. Rodrigo with quick step. Rodrigo was in the jump-off for an eventual 6th place at Lexington at the National Horse Show already this season on the World Cup circuit. He actually holds a top 10 place on the North American League at the moment. So here's kind of the opposite of what happened to Rowan Willis. He, again, is coming up this line. It's all set on a dime. It's set related. And Rodrigo's just going to take the pole out of the middle part of that triumvirate, 3, 4, 5 up the ring. So goes out of the first phase with 4. Of course, there's a special 2 phase he carries on anyway. If we had the other format, the more normal format of 2 phase, then if you have penalties in that first phase, you don't get to progress. And the important difference for these guys as well, as a 2 phase special, to have their horse eligible to go into the World Cup, it must complete the initial round of our welcome tomorrow night, or both phases of this competition, because it's 2 phase special. So if it was a 2 phase normal, they can complete the first phase even with penalties, and the horse has the tick, it can go, it is qualified as a horse to be one of those riders' choices for the World Cup. But as 2 phase special, they need to ride right the way around both phases in order to get that tick in the box in the qualification. Rodrigo in quick step, just the 44.03 was the time taken, so they sit top 10 at the moment. Aaron Ballard, the closest challenger to Daniel Coyle so far. Daniel sitting at just over 30 seconds, 30.77 to lead the way. Not too many double clears, it must be said, so far. And I think that's, it's an interesting start to the week. It's quite a compact FEI tour. There's just this, there's the Welcome tomorrow night, and then the World Cup class on Saturday. Riders have to really want it, and Anderson Lima, as designer, he doesn't really have any moment to sort of give them that real welcome giveaway class, as it were. Everything here, $40,000 on this class tonight. BetHorseSports.com sponsoring meter 45. Meter 45 can be made as chunky as you like. And we're here at the 4-star standard, and that's the difference. We can have meter 45 as a 2-star Grand Prix. We can have meter 45 5-star classes as well. And the difference in those star ratings is going to come, about the relationship between the jumps, the technicality of the course, not just the height of the jumps. And when you get then into that, it's like, what day of the week? Where does the class sit in the program? And it's that kind of tapestry. The designer has a philosophy that culminates in the Grand Prix, the major class, which this week is the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier. And that philosophy, there's always hints of it. If you look back across a designer's courses for a week, if you just watch the Grand Prix and then maybe go back through the classes, you'll see him unveiling the ideas he's working on that then he really wants to bring in as the test on that final day, as the ultimate test of the program of courses he's designed for the week, for that level, for that tour of horses. Couple down, the October Hill being one of them for Olivia Cliver and Connor there. Olivia, one of our first from Texas, hailing from Midland, Texas, actually previously evented, another former eventer in our field. You've seen Olivia and Connor lining out at Michigan and Thermal, and with us on the Split Rock Jumping Tour at Kentucky this year. Natalie Dean's our next to go. Natalie out of Palo Alto, California. Rider ranked inside the world's top 100, having a cracking World Cup season as well. She's the leading West Coast rider on the North American League, sitting 4th. 3rd with a horse called Chance Saint-Omel at the Sacramento leg of the World Cup season. Natalie here with Marigold Sport horses Nespresso van Leekhoff. Natalie, as well as that podium at Sacramento, was 4th, just off the podium last time out in Las Vegas as well. Nations Cup rider for the USA this spring at Wellington in Florida. So Longines watch faces goes in the first phase, so she'll go forward with 4 faults. But Natalie developing this 9-year-old Nespresso horse by Cicero as a next generation horse to follow on Chance Saint-Omel. Darko's promised the ex-Aaron Ballard ride as well, also in Natalie's stable at the top level of the sport. So in fact, just that one down overall, the Longines Oxa down for Natalie, 4 faults, 32.08 again. Those results, 2nd last year in Las Vegas, 3rd this year in Sacramento, 4th this year in Las Vegas, they tell you she is a fast rider. That time tells you as well. Even with the 4 faults, she wanted to try that out, and she makes a good fist of it as well. It's a time that would have been good enough, I think, for 3rd place without the penalties. Vanessa Mannix, Vanessa out of Calgary, Alberta. Jumped here last year with us at Fort Worth. Has a top 10 already under her belt this year at Sacramento. Ness has ridden a lot of Nations Cups for Canada over the years, and we'd normally look at Vanessa's record and see her flitting back and forward to Europe over the course of a summer. This year, she's been kind of all in on the North American circuit. Very good result in the previous World Cup season, taking second in the opener at Thunderbird in Canada to longtime coach Connor Swell. That was Connor's first of 3 victories in last year's circuit, one of which was here at Fort Worth. Just pushed a little bit, ended up being quite flat through the Western Mosaics. There wasn't really a lot left for Kingston, the 9-year-old mare by Ustinov, to do to stay up above that sort of meter 45 vertical coming out of the double in the second phase. So jumps the Vitalize, and it's 8 in 37.69 for Vanessa Mannix. So we'll take a second ride for Arturo Parada Vallejo. Already saw Arturo with Bacot, gave us a double clear. Arturo at the back this time with Pandora 258. This is the horse that gave Arturo that runner-up spot in the 5-star Nations Cup Grand Prix of Mexico this spring. So very, very well-established combination by Perigueux, this 14-year-old mare. A little bit of noise going into the double of verticals, but everything stays up. He chases around to the October Hill Farm. He is hungry for this. He is chasing down at time set by Daniel Coyle. I don't know if activity is going to translate to speed, but he is certainly trying hard here, turning back. He just takes that rail with him. Changes things considerably for Arturo. Split Rock comes as well. Suddenly it's 8 faults. Look at the time, 30.36. He would have been half a second in front, but with 8 faults, it's down the order for Arturo Parada Vallejo and Pandora 258. And that takes us up to halfway. Chris Sorensen, if you're just looking at the start list, Chris Sorensen and Hexagon for Canada will come forward. They will be the first after this midway break. So we've seen half of our starting field so far. Arturo Parada Vallejo brings us up to halfway of the 39 starters we'll see in this $40,000 BetHorseSports.com meter 45 two-face. And Daniel Coyle leads the way with Ivory TCS. The best of just 5 double clears out of some 18 rounds of jumping. Erin Ballard, Arturo Parada's Bacot, who was our first double clear. Elish and Vivaldi Dutil, Lily Keenan and Argan de Belliard sitting 5th. Santiago Lambre then the best of those with falls. So on, quite a few with 4. Down to Rodrigo and Quick Step there, rounding out our top 10 as things currently are. Aaron and Prescott, they were our only ones picking up time penalties, as we said earlier on. Then we have those who picked up 2 rails, 8s, 8s, 8s. Rowan Willis, Wellington Grey Goose, a little bit more than they were hoping for on day 1. We'll see how that sets them up for the rest of the week. And we have Rowan coming back to us as well with Blue Movie. And we have that one rider retired, Nick Pizarro, so far. So a few minutes break here at the Will Rogers Memorial Coliseum before we return to the action in this first FEI class of the Lugano Diamond Split Rock Jumping Tour Fort Worth International. Just under 10 minutes before we get back to the action and continue and conclude our first international class of the week here in Texas. than Daniel so far. So from this point, from jumping through the cowboy boots, we're into the second phase. You can see that the clock changed. And Lewis is a very experienced rider. Again, a little bit like Aaron Ballard, who sits second. He could look very smooth and still be within touching distance speed-wise of the likes of Daniel Coyle. He's going to be, what, 3 seconds, 3.06 seconds behind, 33.83, and that will put Lewis into 4th place as things currently stand, getting us back underway with a double clear in both phases here of the BetHorseSports.com Meter 45 two-phase, a $40,000 class to open up the international account here in Fort Worth. I say when we went into the break we had just 5 double clears. That gives us our 6th, and here now is Chris Sorensen. Chris, who was due to go just before the break, allowed to move down. He rides High Branches Group Exicon RBC. Chris, who's been several years with us in Europe full-time, but has been back here jumping in North America since October. Been a World Cup finalist. He was at the North American World Cup Finals in Las Vegas in 2015. Went at the tail end of the 2021 season to the Nations Cup Finals in Barcelona for Canada. Chris stepped up, as I say, based in Europe at the time. So a useful pick for Canada to take up the place that they had qualified for at those Nations Cup Finals within 2021. See, this could be easily a round where, you know, just 3 unlucky rails in the first phase and could easily jump clear in this second phase. And, you know, some of those rails will actually be helpful. They'll, you know, let Chris understand how the horse is feeling, how the horse is jumping, and set up his program then to try and really focus in and concentrate. And actually, in a way, mentally, the second phase helps the rider do that, because if they haven't been able to focus and settle in a way, that idea of, right, we're going into almost a whole new course, a whole new competition, just lets them sit up, take that condor moment, that breath, and set things as right as they can to go forward. So Chris with 3 down in the first phase, like we say, then clear in the second phase. But it is 12 faults overall. That becomes the counting score for Exicon and Chris Sorensen. Rider from the US territory of Puerto Rico, Mark Watring. Based now in California, Mark has been Pan American Games individual gold medalist. He is, as we mentioned during the start list earlier on, very much on the campaign to try and represent Puerto Rico at Olympic level once again. He has been a jumper for Puerto Rico at Olympic level in Athens 2004. Has his program lined up to try and get the individual spot for Puerto Rico at the Paris Games. But interestingly, he is a double Olympian, having ridden at the 1984 Los Angeles Games, and that was in the sport of eventing. And it was through Mark being based in California that actually identified that Lauren Billies, who subsequently went on to be an Olympian in eventing for Puerto Rico, got the chance to declare for Puerto Rico and be qualified up to that level. So a little Caribbean territory that punches above its weight in equestrian sports. Mark there, you could see him move up. He'd gotten this horse really going, really engaged, going away from the Western motif. Just has that white rail down again. The colors of these fences, so interesting to analyze how they can play a part in the results or otherwise of these classes. But Limbrosini there, the 11-year-old by Gardas Limbus, and Mark Watring for Puerto Rico, ending up on just the unlucky 4. So we welcome back Nick Pizarro. Nick for Mexico writes Mike Wazowski this time around. Obviously named by a Monsters Inc. fan. Some 10 or so years ago, this 10-year-old from the Hanoverian stud book is by Balou de Reventon. Balou de Reventon, a horse ridden on the US team here this year at the World Championships by Brian Mowgray. Brian, who's a rider with us here on the World Cup Tour. We're not, I think, going to see Brian tonight. We'll see him in the Lugano Diamonds Welcome tomorrow night as he sets up for the World Cup. Brian has been a double World Cup winner here in North America, but most importantly, he hails originally from Flower Mound, Texas. One of the leading riders in the country now, still an under-25 rider, but made his first real name for himself with Mike McCormick and Tracy Fenney here in Texas. But not to concentrate on Brian Mowgray, who's not in the class. Let's concentrate on Nick Pizarro, who very much is. So Nick just schooled his first horse a little bit. He jumped just into the second phase, roughly here, and just pulled the pin and said, no, I'm going to retire the horse. It doesn't need to jump all the way around. He carries on here with Mike Wazowski. Again, doesn't feel like he's chasing those sort of leading times. He looks for the inside turn on October Hill, and of course, it is instantly registered with him that he's had that rail going through the double down. So that, again, these top riders, like Nick Pizarro, who's ridden to Olympic level, to championship level for his country, their minds move so quick, analyzing and taking decisions, considering all the variables at play and what's best for their horse. And again, going back to that concept I spoke about earlier on, of that idea of perhaps being a little bit like a thoroughbred trainer, placing a horse in a race with an ultimate aim of peaking on one particular day, one particular race that is nailed down for you and your horse. So 30.77 is still our lead as we go now to a rider for Iraq, Al-Walid Dawood. Al-Walid with RSH Grand Désert. Al-Walid, as we mentioned earlier on, has been a World Cup qualifier winner in the past. That was on the Middle Eastern League in Jordan. He's had several years away from the international sport, but jumping again this year internationally at Michigan. Has jumped at the 5-star level. The UAE's Nations Cup show had Al-Walid on the entry list a few years ago. Has also jumped a nice horse in the 5-year-old World Young Horse Championships at Lanarken. This horse, RSH Grand Désert, with Royal Sport Horses, giving that RSH prefix, but previously campaigned here in North America by Lauren Crooks. And not long with Al-Walid on the international circuit, as I say, just those couple of results this summer at Michigan. Shame it goes through the first phase clear, has the October Hill down, not the first to do so, and again, something we talked about earlier on, when you have that, it is a curving line, but it's still a related distance, and having gone in there, having had the first part down, probably just not having the best shape that he would have wished in a perfect moment around to that October Hill, which, if you haven't picked up, has a water tray underneath it as well. Having not been quite right there, maybe not having the best relationship with this horse yet, so he wasn't able to make the adjustment, get the horse to listen and come back and adjust for him, so the Dalman goes as well. And that's just the nature of the way these courses are set up. Another one down on the final line with the split rock as well. Al-Walid Dawood and RSH Grand Désert will score 12 in our opening international class of the week. Al-Walid, who's jumping here with several national horses as well, quite a lot of our international riders here with horses that they will be creating as the next generation of international horses through the course of jumping at shows like this. And again, for national horses, this is an incredible experience to come in here and build up their experience of rings and competitions like this. Say one of the sort of major touch points is the way that the class that happened at 8 a.m. this morning, the meter speed, is presented and looked at and given the oomph exactly the same as these FEI classes. So it's a huge educational opportunity for horses. Santiago Lambre is back with us. Santi, as we were mentioning earlier on, a double winner of Grand Prix on the Split Rock Jumping Tour. One of actually his two major victories has been in the invitational competition which plays out in a full house after cross-country day at the Land Rover Kentucky 3-day event in the big stadium at the Kentucky Horse Park. Santiago winner a couple of years ago of that. This horse, Chaco Blue, has been going very well for the Olympian. 5th in the National Horse Show World Cup qualifier this year. Top 10 in the big Meter 60 Grand Prix, the American Gold Cup up in Michigan. Going back to that Invitational in Kentucky in April, this pair were top 5 in that this year. And again, you just see that difference in experience, because Santiago knew that he could land, see his spot at the Dallman and really push up to it. You could see really two very different paces from them between the October Hill and the Dallman. He goes out around the October Hill on his way back now to this white vertical, so he's not chasing Daniel Coyle's time, but again, he is using his time in the ring tonight to just try out all the paces, try out all the gears, to try the steering and make sure that everything's in place for him to be very, very strong, very, very challenging in the classes to come. That big world ranking jump off format Lugano Diamonds welcome tomorrow night, and then of course the Longines FEI jumping World Cup qualifier here at 7:30 on Saturday night from the Fort Worth International. So Santiago Lambre, Chaco Blue put a double clear on the board. Again, there's not, you know, it's not every combination's coming in here and managing to get that double clear. It is certainly not a giveaway even at the meter 45 level here in Texas. Rider from Texas, hailing from Parker, this is Colleen Acosta. Colleen and Lancôme jumped here last year in the World Cup. So Colleen riding well, picking up plenty of good results through the 3 weeks as it was this year of the Pin Oak Charity Horse Show, and just outside Houston. At Pin Oak next spring will go to 4 weeks. And Colleen, as well as having a good run through the Jumper Tour at that show with this horse Lancôme, also rode the Hunter Tour, including the National Hunter Derby at Pin Oak last spring. So she's one of a couple to have had the Java stand at the end of this line, 3-4-5 early on the course. So finishes up the first phase there in just under 35 seconds with 4 faults, and starts out the second phase with a rail as well, as the front rail of the Liverpool goes, the October Hill Farm. So again, still plenty of applause. It's not a ticketed evening, but there are still a few people in and giving some applause to our Texan rider, Colleen Acosta, scoring there the 12. Well, from the other side of the Metroplex pair, from Dallas, Texas, Savannah Hemby. Savannah riding at FEI level, international level of the sport for her first year. Rode this horse, Juju, with us at our Split Rock Jumping Tour in the Kentucky Horse Park in June of this year, and was a 3-star Grand Prix competitor on the internationals with us at Kentucky in October. This will be Savannah's first career World Cup show. Just a tiny bit upside down going into that Cowboy. I thought they might be in trouble with just that double of verticals. It's a tough technical question there at the end of the first phase, but they are clear and going forward. Again, you might say the first-year international together might not have the experience to challenge Daniel Coy, but might also not have the experience to know that. You know, the single horse partnerships, you know, they become a real heart horse. They have such a symbiotic horse rider relationship. It's incredibly close. It's 4.25 seconds back, 35.06, but it is double clear over this 4-star World Cup level meter 45 track. That will set them up, Savannah, to go on to our Lugano welcome and hopefully our Longines FEI Jumping World Cup qualifier here this weekend. So one of our most local riders from Dallas, Texas, Savannah Hemby and Juju VDM go top 6 with our double clears. And we were saying earlier on, you know, top double clear is nothing to be sniffed at here. Not every single rider is coming in, you know, and getting the double clear. Not even the majority of riders are getting double clear. 8 so far out of 26 or so starters, so less than 1 in 3 jumping clear so far. So Luis Francisco de Azevedo takes another turn. This is HFG Quamam by Diamant de Semilly for Santa Cecilia Stables. Brazilian contender. Last of the World Cup finals back in 2012. The finals were at Sertogenbosch in the Netherlands. Through the double of verticals. And again, going back to how a designer sets up a track, you get the idea that 2 to 3 is that tight. It's a much longer turn because it's 270 degrees. But from the cowboy boots around to the October Hill is an important mirror of that turn. So you can try out something between 2 and 3 that you're then going to ride between 7 and 8, because of course the timing beats, where they are, where your time for the second phase starts, and the second phase time is what decides the ranking of this class. So important. So to go through that, to be able to carry a bit of speed. We saw Luis Francisco de Azevedo, you know, get in nice and close there to the Jumping World Cup fence on his way to October Hill. Unfortunately, it was problems elsewhere for 4 faults for the Brazilian rider that ends up with him down the order behind our clears. As we say, 8 clears at the moment. Santiago, in fact, with the slowest of those clears, with Chaco Blue in 44.18. Well, here is the rider who has the fastest of the clears so far with Ivory TCS, as we welcome back for a second time Daniel Coyle. Daniel, one of the highest ranked riders at the show, sitting just outside the world's top 25 of riders, rides Legacy. Legacy was Daniel's Toronto World Cup qualifier winner. Won the Welcome, the big jump off class at Washington with this horse as well. Daniel actually, he was a class winner at the National Horse Show in World Cup week. He was a class winner at Washington in World Cup week. He didn't win another class at Toronto, but won the World Cup. So it's swings and roundabouts perhaps. Daniel, who's had such a career, as we mentioned, all those World Cup qualifier wins in the past. The Nations Cup Grand Prix of Canada at the 5-star level has fallen to this man, and this summer a victory I think that will live with him a long time. The Nations Cup Grand Prix of Rotterdam in the Netherlands, one of those crack European Nations Cup shows. He won that with Oak Grove's Carlisle, a horse that he's had on the World Cup circuit here over the course of the winter. Daniel, unfortunately, not going to be able to make it a 1-2 here today. He's going a little bit steadier with Legacy as well. But it has that white vertical dance. It's not the first time it's gone. It's probably been one of the most influential fences of this BetHorseSports.com 2-phase. So JJ Atkinson and Changsha are next to go. 9-year-old mare owned by Bob and Robin LLC for JJ. Just misjudging that line down to number 2, so getting deep in under that top rail. Just circling away. She's obviously just not feeling she's getting the rideability she wants from Changsha here, and actually going to call it a day. So they'll just go put it all together a little bit overnight. They'll think of a little bit of schooling, or they'll put a program together. They'll come back, of course, for the welcome. Now JJ has completed the course with her earlier horse. If she wants Changsha to be available as an option for the World Cup, they'll have to complete that first round of the Lugano Diamonds Welcome tomorrow night. There's our top few at the moment. Daniel Coyle with his first ride, Aaron Ballard, Arturo Parada Vallejo, and Luis Sabino Gonçalves are our top 4 of what are currently 8 clear rounds. Rowan Willis not on the board of clears just yet, but that could change. We have incredible riders with us, some of them on younger horses, less experienced horses, but we're at the 4-star level. This is a 5-star horse, born and bred. This is Rowan Willis's Blue Movie, a 16-year-old mare by Chaco Blue. Carrot, so she's known. Always very feisty. The judge is very careful to make sure that he has an early bell, because he usually just comes straight out of a short turn, picks up the canter and rattles down to the first. It's just the way Blue Movie likes to be set up for a round of jumping. Finished just outside the top 10 at the World Championships in 2018 as a pair. One of the most consistent combinations over the years in the big 5-star Masters Grand Prix at Spruce Meadows. You can't guarantee a clear every day of the sport, otherwise it wouldn't be worth watching, and that rail out of the October Hill means that Rowan can't challenge for the top here. They were a little bit two minds. I thought actually he was going to go outside the October Hill. He ended up just asking the mare to really concentrate and turn inside. Here again, you see her really taking a grip of the bridle down that final line, a little bit more than Rowan would like in a perfect world, but it plays into the hands. If he can nurse a clear in the first round, then he can take that power, that energy, that exuberance, and really turn it to his advantage in a jump-off scenario. Of course, it's an enormous knife balancing act, balanced on an absolute knife edge, because again, that exuberance can end up with a really flat jumping style that they can just go at rather than over the top rail of a jump. So a great gear for her horses. She's got a great plan and she's executing very similarly on both of them. This looks very, very competitive. It looks maybe a little bit more like she's trying than she was with Gakir, but she was just pipped at the post with Gakir. She doesn't want to be pipped at the post this time. 30.30, she does it. Erin Ballard has first and third. She goes into the lead with Narcotique. 30.30. It's actually the fastest of anyone as well. She pips Arturo Parado, who had been faster than Daniel Coyle with faults in 30.36. She is now 30.30. Erin Ballard in the lead for Canada. Canada, Ireland, Canada are top three, with Arturo Parado's clear. They're in fourth place at the moment. So, looking to try and get the US flag onto that top end of the leaderboard, maybe right to the top. Natalie Dean, we were saying earlier on, a rider who's right up there in terms of the World Cup standings at the moment, sitting fourth. Very successful youth career for the United States of America, was on the winning Young Rider Nations Cup finals team 2 years ago, alongside Brian Mowbray, who just a year later then was riding at the World Championships. Natalie's ride is Marigold Sport Horses Écoute M, the Toulon 9-year-old mare. Going back to some of those stats, not too many double clears still. In fact, just 9 of them. Holding the top spots on our honours. And yes, the October Hill Farm, the Jarvis Insurance, the white vertical about to come up here for Natalie would be amongst our most influential fences. But we've seen, I think, pretty much everything in the ring on the ground at one stage or the other. Which really just shows sort of the wide range of challenges and tests laid out by Anderson Lemus. So Natalie Dean with the October Hill Farm front rail off the Liverpool at number 8 at the beginning of the second phase, down for their 4 faults. And another of our top-ranked riders at the show, hails from Chicago, Illinois. It is US Olympian Kent Farrington. Kent, who is the winner of the National Horse Show World Cup qualifier last year with the wonderful Gazelle, his Aachen Grand Prix winner. There's very few major Grand Prix in the world that Kent hasn't finished on the podium or in the winner's circle. Kent rides Hazy McNerney's Landon. Second by Comme Il Faut Plus. The earlier one we saw was JJ Atkinson's Changsha. Landon was Kent's ride already this year for top 10 finishes at both Washington and also at the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair in Toronto. So totting up to 18 World Cup points at this stage. So go up. So yeah, electing to retire. So Kent not going all the way through tonight, but again, Kent here with just one horse, so he'll be lining out in that welcome anyway. Really just using this as a bit of ring familiarization for the US Olympian. Great to have him with us. His teammate from Tokyo last year. McLean Ward will line out for the first time tomorrow night. McLean again here with just the one horse, so we won't in fact even see McLean tonight. We'll see him tomorrow night. US team rider Brian Mowbray the same. We'll see him for the first time tomorrow night in the welcome. So here is potentially one to watch, because this is the third ride for Arturo Parada Vallejo. He is fourth best on a clear with Bacot. He is the second fastest time of anyone around the course with his other ride that had 2 down, Pandora. Nations Cup podium finishing horse in the Grand Prix at Mexico this spring. Arturo now here with Sino Ospi's Kidamo, but he is not going to feature in the top 10 with a rail here in the first phase, the Jarvis Insurance at the end of that first long line here in the Will Rogers Memorial Coliseum down. Takes a pole out of this double as well, so carrying 8. Over that vertical, just 2 more to go here to finish both phases with all 3 horses. That is kind of job done. He can play a very different game because he's not under any pressure to have his horses qualified tomorrow night out of the welcome. So he knows he's got every horse at his disposal for Saturday night's Longines FEI Jumping World Cup, and now that will maybe change the program, maybe change the way of thinking and approaching the welcome. He can have a real crack at it with the horse that maybe he doesn't have focused on the World Cup. Maybe he could try for the double. Maybe that's the way his horses, his string breaks down here this weekend. Always interesting to try and follow and isolate and identify those threads, those practices and policies from our riders. We're getting towards the end of the draw now as well. Aaron Ballard, after a long time, has overtaken Daniel Coyle and Ivory as leader. Aaron with the fastest round of anyone, 30.30 seconds. As we'll take Luis Albino Gonçalves one more time. Sigma Stables, Vic de Coisy. This is Lewis's horse that was top 10 at Vegas this year. Solfrosé by Lord Cartago. Luis and Vic on into the second phase. On a decent pace. The horses paddles a little bit in air over the October Hill. I wonder if it just saw the water tray at the last moment. So that leaves them carrying falls. He's going to go outside here. He's right outside. He took one of our ring crew a little bit by surprise there. He thought he was safe with his rake. Lewis sits up, lands a bit big over the split rock, has to sit up, just manage the distance down to the Vitalize. We were talking about how I think pretty much every fence has been on the ground. The Vitalize perhaps not, just looking around from memory. And our first FEI class, still just 9 double clears. Will our whole top 10 be double clears? Well, we have 2 more to see. So based out of Aledo, Texas now, Christian Heineken. Omaha World Cup finalist back in 2017. He has been a career winner of the World Cup qualifier at Las Vegas and at Burbank. Been a Grand Prix winner with us at the Split Rock Tour. That was in Columbus, Ohio a couple of seasons ago. And actually we're really just seeing Christian start his competition season here as the World Cup gets going. He rode at Las Vegas, but he actually took most of the spring and summer off. He had a sort of lingering leg injury that he took the opportunity roughly this time last year to go in and have re-operated on. He really then concentrated and dedicated himself to his rehab to try and get back to better than he was, riding with that not fully healed leg as he was. So I think this was good news for Christian's wife, Erin Davis-Heineken, who got some of his horses to ride, and a young rider here in the United States, Nico Gamboa, who got a lot of Christian's horses to ride and keep going, and made real good bones for himself out of them as well, picking up a lot of good results. So Christian and his wife Erin, who are some of the powerhouses behind making sure this show is at this level in Fort Worth, also have a great relationship over the years with the Omaha World Cup finals as well. So Christian would love to be part of the starting field at the finals once again, when it is somewhere that is so familiar and has been a happy hunting ground for him with those several Grand Prix victories. NKH Mr. Darcy picks up a couple down tonight, 8 faults, but 36 seconds is a not uncompetitive time. The way it's settled down, 30.30, the leading time for Aaron Ballard. So one more to go. As I say, 9 double clears. Will it be 10, or will it end up being just the 9? Well, that is all going to be down to our last to go over Anderson Lima's track here. Caitlin Campbell. Caitlin out of Temecula, California, with Palina de Lesco. Five-star rider this year at the Nations Cup show at Thunderbird in Canada, jumped the 5-star weeks during the Winter Equestrian Festival as well. Caitlin was an international class winner here last year, and jumped, of course, the World Cup as well. And this year, currently outside the qualification zone with 14 points after 2 shows, but everything can change so quickly. You know, 20, 17 or 15 for first, second or third this weekend can make a big difference to the point score. And after this weekend, just 2 legs remaining of the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup North American League. Well, the October Hill Farm is down at the beginning of the second phase, as it has been for so many others. Interesting is the back rail, so often it's been the front rail. But Caitlin means, that result means that it will just be 9 double clears. 9 double clears out of 39 starts. Just showing that the caliber, the standard, the quality that is expected by Anderson Lima as designer for this 4-star level. He wants to give them the opportunity, for sure. He wants them to get in, get comfortable with the ring, take the familiarity, be as well prepared as possible for the challenges he wants to set for the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup of Fort Worth on Saturday night. But he is not giving anything away. There's world ranking points. There's $40,000 in the prize fund here tonight. And there is the kudos of being a class winner at the meter 45 4-star World Cup level. And that kudos today goes to Canada's Aaron Ballard and Narcotique. Aaron with 2 on the podium, with Gakir there in third as well. Daniel Corden Ivory TCS taking second with long time leading time of 30.77. Here we see those 7th, 8th and 9th clear rounds. Savannah Hemby, Lily Keane and Santiago Lambre. Then Luis Francisco de Azevedo with a pretty fast time with Quaman. Caitlin Campbell, Santiago Lambre's Comtesse. Here we see all the 4 faults. And again, that is very indicative as well. It's not a competition that had lots and lots of faults. It's just a lot of horses coming down, just that one rail. The riders will be going away going, okay, which little bit of the trick, which little bit of the test did I fail at? Where was my problem that gave me that one rail? Can I put that together? Can I be part of the jump off in the welcome here tomorrow night in Fort Worth? Arturo Parada Vallejo, interesting to see there, 30.36, a time that would have eventually been worth 2nd place if he'd left everything standing. And it wasn't like Pandora, such a very good 5-star horse, you know, booted out those fences at the roots. We also mentioned the good time set, even with 8 faults, by Christian Heineken. So, you know, don't rule anyone out. Rowan Willis, Wellington Grey Goose, 3 down, they were all in the first phase. And that was for a few riders, in fact, ended up having riders in, you know, a couple down in the first phase, and then they put it all together. They got the clarity of mind as they went through the start-finish beam and set themselves up to jump clear in the 2nd phase. Doesn't make a big difference tonight. It's faults over both phases. The time in the 2nd phase that gives us our ranking. But, you know, again, Interesting to see how those threads, those stories will develop through the next two classes on the FEI Tour. Well, awards coming up here in Fort Worth, as we say. We have 2 more classes for you. From the Fort Worth live stream, you can watch every single class. We'll have the FEI Welcome for you tomorrow night. We'll have the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup for you on Saturday night. We'll also have the 2-rounder, the October Hill Farm competition on Friday as a broadcast class from the show, and on Sunday we'll bring the Jarvis Insurance National Grand Prix. So plenty for you to watch and enjoy with us from Fort Worth this weekend. I'll hand it out to Eamon McGowan in the bowl as we prepare for awards. Thank you so much for joining us for tonight's BetHorseSports.com $40,000 Meter 45 two-phase, the opening of the international tour here at the Split Rock Jumping Tour, Lugano Diamond Split Rock Jumping Tour, Fort Worth International, hosting this year's Fort Worth leg of the Longines FEI Jumping World Cup.
So many congratulations. Riding Narcotic Vanet Dingshoff goes the way of Erin Ballard, taking the honours here on our first of the FEI International classes at the Split Rock Jumping Tour Fort Worth International Horse Show, with Daniel Coyle rounding out in second place. Now I'm going to ask Daniel and Erin to make their way back to the horses. It's coming up for time for the victory gallop, and of course we're going to hear that special winning interview from the winner here for the first of 5 evenings in the Fort Worth Arena. Back to the horses they go then. We've congratulated the top 8, and once again our most grateful thanks to Michael Cruciati and the entire team from BetHorsesSports.com for making the presentation of awards. Right, here we go. The victory gallop then. Go on. Erin Ballard, lead them off. We're away. Erin Ballard, Narcotique. Come on, we can keep that clapping going one more time. The first night of the Fort Worth International, your winner, Erin Ballard, Canada. Well, many congratulations to all, and thank you to BetHorsesSports.com for your sponsorship here of this 1.45 m. We're coming up with the winning interview. It's coming underway next, and we've got Malone Ranger from the team from 95.9, the Ranch Country FM here, based in Dallas, Fort Worth as well, who's going to be speaking to Erin. Stay with us for a couple of words from our winning rider coming right up. Up they go towards the podium then, and it's Malone Ranger, one of our wonderful radio hosts based here in Fort Worth. Malone, let's see what Erin's got to say about that fantastic round, because she came in and took it away from Daniel Coyle, and we haven't seen that in quite a while. It was brilliant. Malone.
Well, it's kind of hard to stand on the #1 podium and the #3 podium at the same time. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you our winner, Erin Ballard. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
So I watched you during the victory gallop. I don't think I've ever seen a smile so big. What was going through your head in the victory gallop?
Well, I wasn't even meant to come here until Wednesday of last week, so I'm pretty glad we made the decision to come. And it's my first time in Fort Worth, and what a great venue to be at. It really gives you the feel of something important, and I know that World Cup finals are slated to be here, and I don't think there's a better place for them to be.
Well, we are delighted to call you an honorary Texan. Can we do that? Is that okay?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay, one more question. When you are galloping through the course and you are in the final line and you know if you can just go clear those last 2 fences, what's in your head?
I hit the Oxer pretty good off the short turn, and she's so fast. And I knew that I was fast on the chestnut, but he isn't as fast in the air. And I heard them whistling, and I was like, okay, we got this. I trusted her to jump the last one clear, and she gave it to me.
You nailed it. Erin Ballard of Canada. Let's hear it for this woman.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Malone. Very grateful to have you both here at the Split Rock Jumping Tour for the Fort Worth International. And wow, what a wonderful opening day it has been, with 4 more of those to come. We wish you a very, very safe evening and hope to see you back here tomorrow.